My name's Joel Sherman, and welcome to the Invent Podcast. Evan actually couldn't be with us here on this week's episode. He has a lot of stuff going on with his work schedule and other things. It's been pretty hectic since we've left our dorm room at college, but hopefully we'll get things straightened away and he can be back with us next week. But I took the opportunity to make a solo episode about my story from sophomore year when I decided to lose weight in high school and how it's evolved and my perception on athletics has evolved through my first year of college. And since I finished up my first year, I used this time to reflect back on exactly how I've grown as a person and other things that are just going on in my life. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode and can take something away from it. Welcome to Joe with Joel on Volume 1. So Evan and I just moved out of our dorm room, and this is the first ever episode away from our school. And actually, it's a solo episode, so Evan's not here. He got caught up with work. He had a lot of stuff going on, and we were just kind of frantic with our schedules, trying to get used to everything. So hopefully next week he'll be back, but it gave us an opportunity to try out a new segment or a new episode that we've been wanting to do, which is a solo episode. Which should be fun, and I kind of wanted to use this time to talk about my story and how meditation and training the mind has played into my life over the past few months. After my first year of college was over, I've been using a lot of this time to reflect and think back on a lot of things, and I just think sharing my story and evolution over these past few years would be super cool and tie into all of the episodes that we've done so far. So yeah, let's get right into that. So the beginning of this whole self-help journey for me started back in 2015, 2016, my sophomore year of high school. And my whole life I had been a little bit overweight, but that was when I was peaking out at my heaviest weight. And I was kind of fed up with it, and I had tried to lose weight many times before, but I was unsuccessful. And at the beginning of my sophomore soccer season in high school, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this year, I'm going to lose weight, and this is going to be it. And unfortunately, I went through a series of 3 different knee injuries that year alone, or that season alone. But I didn't really let that discourage me. I ended up losing almost 50 pounds. It was 44 pounds in total between the summer between my sophomore and junior year. And this is stuff that I've talked about a little bit before, so I don't really want to get too deep into that, but I ended up losing the weight, and I kind of I evolved into this like fitness, I wouldn't want to say guru, but I definitely allowed some of that to get to my head. I think I felt like I knew way more than I actually did, but fitness became a big part of my life, and it still is, with my running and other things like that. But let's fast forward. When I graduated high school, my senior year, my soccer season was over. I knew I wasn't going to play anymore. I ended up going through 5 different knee injuries as an athlete, and I ended up not being able to play soccer in college, which I did want to, but I moved on from that. Everything was fine. It wasn't a big deal. And so I went to school, and the summer before I went to college, I spent working a lot. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week watching cars, so I wasn't really doing a lot at the gym, and I never got overweight again, but I definitely got out of shape. I couldn't run that far. I wasn't lifting, so I wasn't very strong, and that wasn't a huge deal. And when I went to school, I kind of wanted that back. I go to James Madison University, and we have a fantastic gym facility. It's 270,000 square feet, and I really wanted to use that year to make good habits and continue back on that fitness journey that I was on. And that was super motivating for me because I was in a new place, and I used it as a reset to start brand new habits, and I did end up start getting slowly back into shape. And I was about 170 pounds when I got there, and I put on 20 pounds I was bulking on purpose because I wanted to get stronger lifting, and then I ended up cutting back down to 180, and I was in a really, really good place physically. But the winter months started to set in, and I think it stemmed from my tunnel vision mindset that I didn't want anything else but but to be working out. It seemed like if I wasn't in class or if I wasn't working out, I wasn't happy. And as the winter months started setting in, I kind of developed this little bit of a seasonal depression kind of thing. And it wasn't anything major. I've never dealt with any type of depression or anything like that before in my life, but it was definitely something that caught me off guard and I wanted to address. So I started focusing on, so I thought about it. What was the problem? And I realized that I wasn't super comfortable being alone inside my own head. And going through school was always easy for me. And like I said, I never dealt with anything mentally. So my mind was something that I never thought to address. It was something that I never thought that I needed to practice improving. And I realized through like this whole self-help journey that I've been talking about, that I've been going on, that meditation and other ways to train your mind is a super important part. And I think I neglected that a little bit. So December went around and I kind of just suffered through those. It was about November, December. And like I said, it wasn't a huge deal, but it definitely caught me off guard, and it wasn't as motivating as I would have liked it to be. So I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to take 2019 head on. I'm going to take on a new athletic goal, and I want to set a bunch of other goals. So that's what I did. I figured out ultra marathoning, and I wanted to read 30 books. I wanted to start this podcast. I wanted to do a lot of different things. I set 15 goals, and some small, some big. And I really wanted to just like focus on making sure that my brain was good, and that along with the physicality of the stuff that I wanted to take on, that I was okay mentally as well. So that kind of started on that journey. I started running, which developed really quickly. That was easy for me to pick up and build endurance. And now I'm running 70 miles every week. And I've got this upcoming 50-mile race in November, which I'm super excited about. But along with those practices, I implemented meditation into my life every single day. And at first, I really wasn't seeing a lot of benefits. I would wake up, and it was just these small changes I'd make. I'd meditate for 5 minutes in the morning, and then I bumped it up to 10 minutes. And that's where I'm about right now, 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes I even more, 20 minutes. But over the next few weeks, I'm definitely going to be increasing that time. I hopefully will be getting 40 minutes or so every single day, which will be super beneficial for me. I know, maybe 20 minutes in the morning and then 20 minutes at night before I go to bed. And that is something that even the little bit that I'm doing right now, I've noticed is making a huge difference in my life. I just feel more, the meditation I practice is called mindfulness. It's, you focus on one thing. Usually it's the breath, how you're feeling, and it hopefully will apply to other instances in your life. And along with the other things I'm doing, like limiting my social media use and making sure that I'm spending time outside and talking with people, meditating has allowed me to be mindful in other moments. It's allowed me to take conversations. I'm more of an active listener, and I find myself feeling how my body is in a certain moment, or when I'm running, or when I'm working out, or when I'm hanging out with a friend. I'm aware of a certain part of my body and my breath, and it kind of slows time down a little bit, and it allows you to become more relaxed about it. And it definitely has decreased stress in my life. And I think as I've started doing these things, that kind of spout of seasonal depression, or whatever I want to call it, has kind of faded away with it. And right before I decided I want to start running ultra marathons in probably October. So this was right about before I started really realizing that I needed to train my mind. I developed a big love for interpersonal communication, storytelling, and writing. I figured out that that's what I wanted to do with my life, which is one of the big reasons why I wanted to start the podcast and start reading more. And I think the reason why I wanted to go so hard in 2019 was because when I got to school and I had this tunnel vision mentality about my physical health, and I was going really hard at it, working out like 3, 4, 5 hours a day, it kind of played a part in the other aspects of my life when I realized that I wanted to study interpersonal communication and write every day and practice reading and writing and do this podcast that I found that the physical aspects of my life and me training so hard, it transitioned over into this aspect, and I really wanted to work towards consistently putting out podcasts and consistently writing and creating as much as I could, because that's really what I enjoyed. And then I went through that spout I'm talking about, and it kind of put a damper on a lot of those things. And so coming into 2019, it kind of revitalized that tunnel vision mentality I had. And so that evolution, I think, was super important in my life. And over the past few weeks, like I said, I've been reflecting a lot back on how my first year of college has impacted me. And I think I'm making another transition with my mindset towards life in general. And as I've been meditating more, and it's becoming more obvious how it's helping me and affecting me in a positive light, I've realized that my tunnel vision mentality isn't necessarily as healthy as it might even be unhealthy in some ways. And I was in this mindset where it was just like work, 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 work all the time. And I think that can be good and that can be effective, and that really, that breeds success. And I still have a lot of those qualities, but I'm realizing lately how important it is to kind of take time for yourself to relax however you can. And it's important to find that, I think. And for me, that's, I can find that in working out. And what I mean by that is I was kind of in this mode where I wasn't enjoying working out, and I wasn't enjoying writing, and I wasn't enjoying reading. I forced myself to do it. And I got to the point where I was kind of sick of it. And I was sitting when I was meditating, and I realized that I need to kind of enjoy every little moment that I'm in those things, because it is what I love to do. And while I'm working out and while I'm reading and while I'm writing and doing this podcast, I'm even doing it now. I'm trying to realize, oh, this is an awesome opportunity that I have, and I need to kind of enjoy this, because there's no sense in working yourself into the ground like I think I was doing for so long. And I think that tunnel vision mentality kind of contributed a lot to that little spout I dealt with in the winter months, because I was working constantly. Like I said, I was going to class, I was studying, I was working out 4 or 5 hours a day. I was trying to maintain a 4-day lifting schedule and a 5-day running schedule, and I wanted to go rock climbing every single day and play racquetball and do all these different things. And I was doing them, but I think it definitely it came at a cost for my mind, and I needed that time to step away from it and reflect on how lucky I am to be able to do those things and kind of address what's going on in between your ears. I think a lot of people maybe neglect that their brain is an important key function behind a lot of it's just as important as the physical. And I'm reading this book called Mind Gym by Gary Mack. I definitely recommend checking it out if you have the opportunity to. It talks about, it takes on it from an athlete's point of view, like sports psychology, and how important it is to train your mind as an athlete. But I think it can be applied to a lot of different walks and facets of life, because it's kind of like the secret to success in a way, that you need to overcome yourselves. And there's a lot of qualities of your brain that a lot of people don't address, and performance has a lot to do with that muscle in between your brain. And the thing that kind of made me realize how important it was is all the time athletes talk about how important it is. 50% of the game is in your head. It's you versus yourself in your own brain. But then how much time do you spend working on that part of it, And if 50% of the success of the game comes down to you being able to overcome yourself in your own head, then how come 90% of our training is physical? And so that's another thing that I'm kind of realizing recently, and I want to take further with my meditation practice, and with other ways I'm stimulating and training my mind, and I'm making sure I'm taking time off from all this input with social media, and I'm reading positive things, and I'm reading fun stories, and I'm going to the gym as well, because that's also pretty good for your mental health as well. And it's just important to reflect upon that and see how important it is for everybody to address the things that I think that they're scared of. And that has a lot to do with other things that we've talked about on the podcast, like getting out of your comfort zone. And like I said earlier, I realized I was kind of scared of being alone, and instead of avoiding that by always being with people and always stimulating my brain in a way that I wouldn't be alone, I took it as an opportunity to say, okay, how can I be alone and be good with myself? And I found that, and obviously I'm still working on it, and everybody always is, but I encourage anybody listening to reflect on the past few months that they've had and understand that eventually you will evolve if you work at it. So I guess the point that I'm trying to say is all these evolutionary steps that I've gone through over the past 2 years since I've lost weight, I've realized every single step looking back that at the last step that I was at, I was kind of ignorant to a lot of things. So a few months ago, I was super tunnel vision focused on work, no excuses, get after it. And I still have a lot of those. I still carry a lot of that in my mentality now, but I think I'm kind of shifting into another stage where I'm focused more on enjoying that aspect of it rather than it being a mandatory thing that everybody has to go through in order to be successful. Is realizing that I do enjoy the work, having the work ethic, and putting in the time and putting in the effort. I do enjoy those things, and that makes every single day more fun as well. It's not as much of a task. I don't have to get up and, I got to make myself run. I got to make myself read. I got to do that podcast later. Then I can relax. I'm kind of taking the present moment and enjoying it. And I think that, especially if you haven't practiced meditation, you just try it out and maybe use this time, pause the podcast and take a few mindful breaths. And I think, at least for me, it has been a huge impact on my mental health, and it has helped me be more productive with my time, I think, when I'm actually working. So taking 10 minutes actually makes me more productive and more focused on my tasks when I have to work at them, which is super cool. So that's kind of the point, is just realize that one day you might realize that you were ignorant or unaware of a lot of things in the past. And even now, this next step that I'm moving into, I know that I'll grow and evolve from it to something else. And I'll realize that I was ignorant towards one thing or another, and I gotta change and grow from that. And down the line, you won't be a completely new person, but there's so many layers that you'll have added and stacked and learned from that I think will just play a huge and important role in your life. Because I guess that's what I'm now realizing is finding those things that you can work at and fix, and find what you're passionate about and work towards it. And luckily for me, I'm growing up at a time where I can talk about these things and post them on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes, and hopefully people will listen, and maybe I can grow a career or some type of thing out of it, because the tool, like the internet and technology, is such an amazing tool that I have access to use, and I can find my passion through that. And I just think that's also amazing too, is I can use YouTube and the internet and stuff like that to create my own path by finding my passion and continually working towards bettering myself physically and mentally. And like I said, over these past few weeks, I've also realized I really want to compete at these ultra marathons and break course records and do 50 and 100 and 200 mile races and really do well at them, because I think that something I could work at and be good at, because I've fallen in love with running for some reason. And that's just something that the future 1, 2, 3, or 4 years down the line, I know that I would be continuing to do. And it is such an important thing in my life that That's why I think it's so important for everybody to find what they're passionate about, because I think I'm definitely getting closer and closer to exactly what I want to do with my life. And hopefully I'll continue to write, and I'll get a book, or I'll do some personal essays that hopefully will get published, and I'll continue to run and compete. And yeah, that's just what I'm looking forward to in the future with everything. And I hope that you guys listening find those things as well, and understand that the way to do that is to go out and try different things, and you kind of learn what you like. And it took me a while to realize, I mean, I'm only 18 and I still probably will develop and grow and learn more about myself and what I want, but I definitely feel like I'm on the right path, and I'm truly enjoying every minute I have, especially recently with my meditation and mindfulness practice. And I hope that you guys can do the same. And I just think it's important to address that, the mental side of things, not just the physical side of things. And that's kind of where I'd like to wrap things up with. This was a bit of a shorter episode, a solo episode. It was actually really awesome to be able to sit down and do this. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and give us some feedback on whether or not you like the solo side of things. And like I said, and Evan and I have been talking about doing a solo episode for a little while now, and it's something that I think that we're going to continue to do in one way or another. I don't know if it'll replace, like today, our current Wednesday episode. Maybe we'll do like a double or a triple upload a week if we can kind of work that into our schedules, because this was a lot of fun, and it's something that I want to get better at. I know it's very difficult to sit down and talk for 30 minutes by yourself into the mic, and I hope that I got a lot of my ideas out and clear. And this was just kind of a bit of a ramble about my story and evolution, and kind of what's been on my mind recently. And it's a little bit different than our normal talks back and forth with Evan and I. And I hope that you guys had some value. You guys could take something out of this and use my story maybe as motivation to go do something, or you could make a connection between something that's going on in your life and make a realization about yourself. But I hope that you just take this time to grow and learn, and maybe go out and do something nice today for yourself, or find some time to meditate, or find some time to step away and get a breath of fresh air in a way, away from what's going on in your life. And hopefully this serves as a reminder that not everybody's perfect, but we're going to continue to work to grow and continue to strive to be great and to achieve things that we set out to do. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. This was a little bit of a different episode today, and I really enjoyed doing a solo episode, but there's definitely a ton for me to learn and practice, so any kind of feedback would be appreciated. This week's end quote is by Katherine Dunham, who was a 20th century American dancer, author, anthropologist, and social activist, and she said, "Go within every day and find the inner strength so that the world will not blow your candle out."